I think I didn't do anything wrong, just made a small mistake before the wedding. Everyone acts like I planned to ruin everything, but it was just one night, one stupid night. Now my husband says the baby isn't his, and the papers he handed me prove he means it. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm Isolde Renn, and I swear I didn't do anything wrong. At least, not the way everyone keeps saying. It was just one night before the wedding. One stupid, emotional night that wasn't supposed to mean anything. Evan and I had been together for 3 years, and he was safe, steady, predictable. Maybe too predictable. When Theo smiled at me across the hotel bar during my own engagement weekend, I told myself it was harmless. I needed to feel wanted before settling forever, that's all. I thought if I got it out of my system, I could walk down the aisle clean. Instead, that one night followed me home. Now, months later, I'm standing in our kitchen holding an envelope with my name on it while Evan looks at me like a stranger. He says the baby isn't his. He says he can prove it. Everyone's treating me like a monster, like I planned this. I didn't. I was just trying to feel alive for a second before becoming someone's wife forever. People act like I destroyed him, but they don't understand. I loved Evan. I still do. I just made one mistake. And somehow, that's all anyone remembers. The night before our wedding wasn't supposed to mean anything. It was meant to be a goodbye to the version of me that needed attention to feel alive. I told myself that while I sat in that half-lit hotel lounge with Theo, watching the city lights shimmer through the tall glass windows. The rehearsal dinner had ended hours ago. Evan had gone to his room early, saying he wanted to be well rested for the big day. I'd kissed his cheek and laughed, told him he was sweet, dependable, everything a husband should be. I meant it too, at least in that moment. But then, the music from the bar drifted in, soft and heavy, and Theo appeared like he had been waiting for me all along. He worked at another branch of the company where I handled scheduling. Confident, funny, always quick with a compliment. He'd helped me organize the corporate gala last winter, and I'd told him, half joking, that if I weren't engaged, I'd be dangerous. He remembered that line. Of course he did, when he leaned against the bar that night and said, "One last drink for the unmarried version of you." I didn't hear danger, I heard permission. I could have said no. I should have said no. But I was tired of feeling like I lived in a world made of spreadsheets and grocery lists. Evan was wonderful, kind, predictable, loyal. The sort of man women say they want and then quietly suffocate under. My sister Nina said every woman deserved one wild memory before she said forever. So when Theo touched my hand across the counter, I told myself it wasn't betrayal. It was closure. The drink turned into 2. The conversation slipped from work jokes into teasing, then into memories that had never actually happened, but sounded romantic enough to pretend they did. I told him I wanted to remember who I was, before marriage made me careful. He said I still had time. That line, "You still have time," looped through my head all night. When I went upstairs later, I deleted his number from my phone. It made me feel clean again. I stood in the hallway outside the suite Evan and I were supposed to share tomorrow and listened to the faint hum of the minibar fridge. My heart beat so hard I thought he'd hear it through the door. But when I entered, he was asleep, one arm over his chest, the light from the bathroom night bulb falling across his face. He looked peaceful, solid. I told myself that was why I did it, to come back knowing exactly what I was choosing. The morning came bright and sharp. I pretended the small headache was nerves. Evan kissed my forehead and said he couldn't wait to see me walk down the aisle. He looked so proud it almost hurt. I smiled and said he wouldn't have to wait long. When he turned away, his phone lit up on the counter. A small notification flashed. Downtown, 9:40 a.m. A meeting, probably. He was always organized. Still, the precision of the time caught my eye. The ceremony rehearsal had left the hotel scattered with decorations, and I helped tidy what I could before breakfast. My mother called, telling me she'd seen a few photos from the bar last night on Nina's story. "You looked like you were having fun," she said. That word fun stretched just enough to sound like approval. I told her it was harmless, that I was celebrating my last night of freedom. She laughed, said she was glad I was living a little before marriage turned serious. That was my mother, always cheering recklessness when she didn't have to pay the price. By noon, I found Evan in the small cafe near the lobby, coffee already half gone, his laptop open. He smiled when he saw me, but it was different, controlled. I sat across from him, touching his hand. "Big plans this morning?" I asked. "Just errands," he said. "You're running errands the morning of our wedding." He shrugged. "Some things need to be in order." The way he said order made me pause. But then he closed the laptop and reached for my hand again, softer this time. "You're beautiful," he said. "I just want today to go smoothly." I laughed it off, teasing him about being too responsible. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. The rest of the day blurred. Flowers arriving, bridesmaids laughing, photographers asking for smiles. Nina hovered near me, whispering that everyone was buzzing about how relaxed I looked. "Most brides are anxious wrecks," she said. "You're glowing. What's your secret?" "Confidence," I said. "Knowing what you want." She smirked like she didn't believe me. Maybe she didn't. That evening, I caught sight of Evan in the courtyard talking to his mother. He looked serious, nodding while she gestured toward the hall. When he saw me, he smiled, but his mother didn't. She gave me a polite nod, the kind that said she'd already made a decision about me. I told myself it was just her nerves. Mothers always think no one is good enough for their sons. Later that night, while everyone else toasted with champagne, I slipped outside for air. The cool wind brushed my face, carrying the faint scent of garden roses. My phone buzzed, a message from Theo. "Still thinking about you." I stared at it, thumb hovering. For a second I considered replying. Instead, I deleted the entire thread. I told myself that was maturity. When I went back inside, Evan was at the bar talking quietly with one of his groomsmen. They both stopped when they saw me. I smiled, pretending not to notice. I told myself it was just wedding nerves, that he was probably talking about logistics or family seating. Still, the look he gave me wasn't the one I wanted. It wasn't love. It was study. That night, I couldn't sleep. Evan's breathing was steady beside me, but my mind kept spinning. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes, Theo's hand, the city lights, the sound of my own laughter too loud in the bar. I tried to quiet it by listing wedding details in my head. Vows, bouquet, photographer's arrival time. The list helped until I heard the soft click of Evan's phone camera. I turned slightly, pretending to shift in my sleep. He was sitting up, screen light glowing against his face. When he noticed me move, he turned it off and lay back down. "Couldn't sleep," I whispered. "Just thinking," he said. "About tomorrow." He paused. "About a lot of things." I didn't ask what. I was afraid to. The next morning, everything looked perfect. My dress, the venue, the sunlight spilling through the stained glass. I played my role perfectly. The laughing bride, the confident woman who had everything under control. Evan smiled for the photos, steady and composed. No one could have guessed that something had already fractured between us. At the reception, Nina made another little joke, something about how the bride looked too calm for someone giving up freedom. Everyone laughed, including me. Evan didn't. He just raised his glass, drank, and set it down. I tried to brush his arm, but he moved to talk to his cousin. That was the first time I noticed how often he looked at his phone. He'd check it, type something quick, slide it into his jacket. Once, I saw a thread name flash, before the screen went dark. Follow up. By the time the night ended, I was exhausted. My cheeks hurt from smiling, and my dress felt heavy with sweat and glitter. Back in our suite, I finally exhaled, leaning against the wall. Evan stood by the window, his tie loose, staring at the city. "We did it," I said softly. He nodded. "We did." "You're quiet." "Just tired," he said. Then, after a pause, "It's funny how people remember nights differently." The words caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "Nothing," he said. "Just thinking." I wanted to ask if he'd seen something, if someone had said something, but pride got in the way. I changed the subject, asked about our honeymoon plans, joked that he should be excited to finally have me to himself. He smiled faintly and said, "I'm sure I will." I tried to kiss him then, but he turned slightly, catching my cheek instead of my mouth. "Good night, Isolde." I froze for a moment. "Good night," I said, pretending it didn't sting. When I woke the next morning, he was already dressed, packing a folder into his briefcase. "Working on our wedding morning?" I teased. He looked up, calm as ever. "Just keeping things organized." The way he said organized made my stomach twist. After he left, I noticed a faint smell of printer toner near the desk. A single blank page sat in the tray. I crumpled it, threw it away, and told myself it meant nothing. Later that afternoon, as I scrolled through photos Nina had posted, one caption made my chest tighten. She said goodbye to her single life in style. There was a photo of me at the bar with Theo, my hand on his arm, both of us laughing. The lighting was dark, but the shape of it was clear enough. I texted her immediately. "Take that down, now." She replied with a laughing emoji. "Relax, it's cute." I deleted the photo myself from her phone when I saw her at brunch, claiming I just didn't like how I looked. She rolled her eyes, said I was being paranoid. Maybe I was. But that night, Evan came home with a small smile and said, "I'm glad we're starting our life together. I just want honesty between us." "Always," I said. He nodded. "Good." Then he opened his phone, typed something, and I heard the faint chime of a reminder being saved. I didn't ask what it was. I just told myself marriages are built on trust. Still, when I kissed him goodnight, his lips didn't move. The morning after the wedding felt like waking up inside someone else's life. Everything was spotless, calm, and wrong. The bed sheets were smooth where Evan had slept, as if he'd never been there at all. I sat up slowly, the ring glinting on my finger in a way that should have felt comforting. It didn't. He was already dressed, sitting at the small desk by the window, reading something on his phone. "Checking our honeymoon details?" I asked, trying to sound light. He didn't look up. "Just confirming a few things." I walked over, still in my robe, and rested my hands on his shoulders. "You're supposed to be off duty now. Married life starts today, remember?" He nodded, still scrolling. "I remember." There was something detached in his tone that made my stomach tighten. I kissed the back of his neck and said I'd order breakfast. He murmured a thanks without turning around. The food came, and we sat across from each other at the little table. I told him I was still buzzing from the wedding, that it all felt surreal. He smiled politely, asked if I'd slept well. When I said I barely had, he said he hadn't either. That felt like a confession, but he didn't explain why. When I went to pour coffee, I noticed his mug and mine were on opposite sides of the counter, separate corners again, just like before. We spent the rest of the day doing the usual post-wedding errands, checking out of the hotel, thanking guests who were still in town, smiling for leftover photos. Everyone told us we were the perfect couple. They said Evan looked proud, that I looked radiant. I tried to believe them. By the time we got home, the apartment felt smaller. The balloons and cards from the reception filled every surface. I started unpacking gifts while Evan disappeared into the guest room. I heard drawers open and close. When I peeked in, he was setting up his laptop on the old writing desk we barely used. "Since when is that your office?" I asked. "The light's better here," he said. I laughed. You mean you just don't want to be near me while I'm sorting all this? He gave a small smile. Maybe I'm just trying to stay organized. That word again, organized. I wanted to ask what he meant, but decided to let it go. Marriage experts say not to pick fights in the first week. The next few days blurred. Honeymoon plans turned into excuses. Evan said he had to delay the trip for work paperwork. I told everyone it was fine, that we'd reschedule. I wasn't about to admit that he hadn't touched me once since the wedding night. Instead, I played the perfect wife, cooking elaborate dinners, posting photos of our new rings, tagging him with captions like, forever starts now. He'd like the post but never comment. When friends asked how marriage felt, I said it was amazing. I convinced myself saying it enough times would make it true. Theo didn't message again. His silence should have brought relief, but it left a hollow space I filled with guilt and irritation. Some nights, I imagined him bragging to someone, maybe laughing about how easily I'd caved. I hated him for that, and hated myself more for wondering if he missed me. One evening, I came home from work to find Evan sitting on the couch, laptop open, glasses perched low. A spreadsheet glowed on the screen, columns and numbers. Work again? I asked. He nodded. Just sorting things. Sorting what? Information. I leaned closer, squinting at the headings. Date, event, notes. My stomach turned cold. You're keeping a log now? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, It helps me see things clearly. You mean me, I said, half laughing. He didn't deny it. That night, when he showered, I opened his laptop. The sheet was password protected. My name was written in the corner of a sticky note next to the keyboard. File A. Beneath it, a second note, follow-up, personal. I didn't know what to think. When I confronted him, he just said, We both need to be accountable. For what? He didn't reply. The next morning, I found a small USB taped under the taxes folder in our drawer. It had a date written in his handwriting, last weekend's. I didn't dare open it. I shoved it back, heart racing, pretending I hadn't seen. Later that day, my mother called. She said she saw photos from our wedding trending on social media. You were glowing, she said proudly. Though that one picture, what was it, you laughing with someone at the bar? People said it looked flirty. I froze. Who said that? Oh, just comments. You know how people are online. I brushed it off, but when I searched later, I found it. A repost of one of Nina's videos from the rehearsal dinner. Me, head tilted, laughing too hard. Theo's hand visible at the edge of the frame. The comments weren't kind. Some brides start early. Guess who's winning the honeymoon pool? I texted Nina, furious. She said she didn't mean anything by it. It was funny, she wrote. You're too sensitive. When I showed Evan the video, expecting him to defend me, he only said, It's good that it's public. Less for me to explain later. Explain to who? He didn't answer. That night, he slept in the guest room again. I heard the click of the lock, quiet but final. 2 days later, his mother dropped by unannounced. She brought a basket of baby gifts, tiny shoes, neutral colors. I blinked, confused. It's a tradition, she said softly, to wish the marriage fruitfulness. I thanked her, embarrassed. She looked around the apartment, then at me. Evan tells me you've both been busy. He's working hard, yes? He always does, I said quickly. She nodded. He's a patient man, but patience isn't endless. I tried to laugh. Are you saying I should behave? Her smile didn't change, but her eyes did. I'm saying trust is earned, not inherited. After she left, I called my mother. She told me not to take it personally. In-laws always test you, she said. Don't give her the satisfaction of seeing you rattled. Focus on your image. My image. As if this were some PR campaign. That evening, Evan came home early. I thought it was a good sign until I saw he was carrying a small envelope. He placed it on the table. Bank statements, he said when I asked. I didn't say anything, I replied. He smiled faintly. Just answering early. I waited for him to join me for dinner, but he said he'd already eaten. The silence between us stretched so long, I almost broke it with an apology, one I didn't know how to phrase. Instead, I said, "People online are saying things." "I know," he said. "They'll stop eventually." "Doesn't it bother you?" He shook his head. "Not anymore." The next morning, his phone buzzed while he showered. A notification previewed on the screen. File uploaded successfully. I stared at it until the message disappeared. By now, even the apartment felt divided. His things stayed perfectly neat, mine scattered. He started labeling folders in drawers, utilities, household, archive. The order of it all made me uneasy. One night, after another silent dinner, I blurted out, "You're acting like you're documenting me." He looked up. "Would that be wrong?" "Yes." "Then you should be fine," he said. That quiet confidence made me furious. I accused him of trying to manipulate me, of playing mind games. He didn't argue. He just said, "I don't raise my voice when I already have facts." "Facts about what?" He closed his laptop slowly. "About what kind of person I married." I told him he was being cruel. He said, "Truth doesn't need tone." That night, I couldn't sleep again. Every sound felt amplified. The hum of the refrigerator, the faint clack of his keyboard through the wall. Around midnight, I heard the soft whir of the printer. I tiptoed to the door, peeked through the crack. The machine spat out a single sheet. He lifted it, looked at it for a long time, then fed it into the shredder. When he left for work the next morning, I looked in the trash bin. Only thin strips of white paper. I called Nina and told her he was being distant. She said I was overreacting, that all men got weird after weddings. "It's just adjustment," she said. "Go make him jealous. Works every time." So, I posted a photo from our honeymoon reservation, captioned "Counting down the days with my best friend." The comments were sweet, full of heart emojis. For a few hours, it felt like I'd reclaimed the narrative. When Evan came home, he looked at the photo and said only, "Nice picture. Shame about the caption." "What's wrong with it?" He turned to me calmly. "You called me your best friend." I frowned. "So? You've never called me that before." The way he said it, like he'd checked, confirmed it, made my throat dry. I laughed it off, saying he was paranoid. He didn't respond. He just wrote something in a small notebook and went to the guest room. That night, while I scrolled through comments, another notification popped up on his side of the bed. A calendar reminder glowed on his lock screen. Downtown 9:25 a.m. The gossip started small, like a faint hum under everything I said. By the third week of marriage, I could feel people watching me differently. At work, at brunch, even at the grocery store. They smiled too carefully, paused before answering questions, and lowered their voices when Evan's name came up. It was Nina who confirmed it first, because of course it was. She called one evening, just as I was folding laundry, her voice dripping with that mix of concern and excitement she got whenever someone's life was imploding. "Don't freak out," she said, "but someone posted a photo from your rehearsal night. You and that guy, Theo, right, look kind of close." I stopped folding. "Close how?" "Like he's whispering something and you're laughing. It's going around one of those local wedding pages. You know how people are. Zooming in, making up stories." "It was nothing," I said quickly. "He's a coworker. People are pathetic." "Yeah, I told them that," she said, though her tone didn't sound like defending me had been her top priority. "Anyway, just giving you a heads up before it blows up." When I hung up, Evan was sitting at the table, laptop open again. The glow lit his face in that steady, unreadable way that had started to terrify me. "Bad news?" he asked without looking up. "Nothing serious," I said. "Just online nonsense." He hummed like he already knew what it was. "You're not going to ask?" He typed something, then said, "If it's nothing, I don't need to." The quiet between us grew heavier by the hour. Even the small noises, his pen scratching, the tick of the clock, felt like judgment. I told myself to stay calm, to act like everything was fine. After all, guilt only shows when you treat yourself like you're guilty. That weekend, Evan's mother invited us to dinner at her favorite restaurant. It was supposed to be a family catch-up, a chance to reconnect. I knew what it really was, an inspection. She greeted Evan with a long hug and gave me the polite kind of kiss that doesn't touch skin. The table was long, full of his relatives. The air smelled like lemon and polished silverware. Conversation started soft, work updates, weather, small talk about the house. Then Nina, who'd decided to join, started scrolling her phone and whispering to my cousin-in-law. She laughed, turned the screen toward me, and said, "Oh my God, this one's funny. Look what someone captioned your rehearsal photo." I froze. Evan looked up from his plate. The caption said, "Some brides get cold feet, others get warm company." The table went silent for a full 5 seconds. I tried to laugh. "People online will say anything. It's ridiculous." Nina grinned nervously. "Yeah, just memes. Don't take it so seriously." But I could feel the temperature at the table drop. Evan's aunt cleared her throat. His mother reached for her water glass but didn't drink. Evan cut his food calmly and said, "That's the world now. Everyone documents everything." His tone was neutral, but the words hit like ice water. I leaned toward him. "You're not seriously entertaining that garbage, are you?" He looked at me for a long moment. "You're right. I don't have to entertain what I already know." Something inside me jolted. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," he said. "Eat before it gets cold." I pushed the plate away. "You know what? Maybe we shouldn't be here if you're going to make comments like that." "You're the one who's performing," he said quietly. "What does that even mean?" He didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward his mother. "You okay, Mom?" She nodded slightly but didn't look at me. The rest of the meal was unbearable. The clinking of cutlery sounded like tiny hammers in my head. When dessert came, I excused myself to the restroom just to breathe. My reflection in the mirror didn't even look like me. Eyes wide, mouth tight, a stranger wearing my face. When I returned, Evan was signing the check. I caught a glimpse of his phone screen beside the bill, a message thread labeled "Follow-up." The top line read, "File uploaded successfully." "Who are you messaging?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He glanced at the screen, then locked it. "Just confirming something." "With who?" He met my eyes. "You'll find out eventually." I felt my face heat. "What is that supposed to mean?" He stood, helping his mother with her coat instead of answering. In the parking lot, I snapped, "You can't just threaten me with half sentences and act righteous about it." He didn't raise his voice. "Then stop giving me material." "Material?" I echoed. He opened the car door. "Let's go home." All the way back, the silence was suffocating. When we got inside, he went straight to the guest room again. I heard the door close, then the lock click. I sat alone in the living room, scrolling through my phone, trying to prove to myself that people still saw me as normal. But the photo was everywhere now. Shared, reposted, commented on, by people I hadn't seen since college. Some said it was inappropriate, others called it sad. Even my mother texted, "Ignore the noise, darling. You did nothing wrong." I wanted to believe her. But the longer I stared at the photo, the harder it became to recognize my own expression. The next day, at work, my supervisor asked to see me privately. "Everything okay at home?" she asked. "Of course," I said. "Why?" She sighed. "Someone from another branch sent a message. They said there's a rumor about you and Theo. It's affecting the company's image." I forced a laugh. "It's gossip, nothing more." "I hope so," she said. "You're good at your job, Isolde. Don't let a story control your reputation." The word story stung. When I got home, Evan was already there. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee and printer toner again. A folder labeled Household sat neatly on the table. I picked it up, opened it, and found only our bills, each stapled, color-coded, and dated. The precision made my skin crawl. When I asked about it, he said, "Just keeping track." "Of what? My breathing?" He looked at me steadily. "Of truth." That night, I tried to get ahead of the gossip. I posted a photo of Evan holding my hand at the wedding reception, captioned, "Married life, peace plus partnership." It felt clever, defiant. Within minutes, comments flooded in. Most were supportive, but one stood out. "That's not what your sister was saying in her story last week." I deleted it immediately, heart racing. When I turned, Evan was standing in the doorway watching me. "Damage control?" he asked. "I'm just correcting lies," I said. He nodded slowly. "You're good at that." I snapped. "Do you want to accuse me of something or not?" He walked over, calm as ever. "I don't have to accuse you. People are doing it for me." The next morning, I found him in the kitchen, reading on his phone again. A small smile touched his lips, not warm, not cruel, just final. "What's funny?" I asked. "Nothing," he said. "Just an update." "From who?" He looked up. "Someone reliable." "Reliable like who? A lawyer?" He didn't confirm or deny. He just took his coffee and left the room. Later that day, my mother called again, voice tight. "I ran into Marion at the market. She said you two are working through things. What does that mean?" I gritted my teeth. "It means she's stirring drama as usual." "Isolde," my mother said gently, "don't let pride ruin your marriage. Fix this before he decides it's not fixable." "He's just being dramatic," I said. "He's not leaving me over gossip." But that night, as we sat in separate rooms, I heard the faint click of his phone camera again. A flash of light slipped under the door crack. The next day at family brunch, the silence was worse than words. People smiled too politely. Nina kept trying to make small talk that fell flat. I tried to joke about the rumors, but no one laughed. Even the waiter seemed to sense something off. When dessert arrived, Evan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then slipped it into his jacket. "What's that?" I asked. "Just a reminder," he said. "For what?" He looked straight at me. "To follow up." I wanted to demand answers, but his mother suddenly stood up, her voice firm. "Maybe it's time we give Evan some space." Nina frowned. "Why? He's fine." "No," Marion said. "He's preparing." "Preparing for what?" I asked, my voice cracking. Marion looked at me, eyes calm, and said, "Consequences." Evan didn't correct her. He just finished his coffee, placed money on the table, and stood. "Ready?" he asked me. I nodded because what else could I do? Everyone was watching. As we walked out, a flash went off. I turned and saw someone holding up a phone, filming. My face burned. The hospital lights were too white, too bright. They made everything look cleaner than it really was. I remember thinking that when the nurse handed me the baby for the first time, his tiny fingers curling, his breath soft as paper. For a moment, I forgot everything. I told myself that motherhood was a restart button, that Evan would see this little face and remember who we were. Families fix everything. That's what everyone says. He came into the room quietly, holding a small bouquet that looked like it came from the hospital gift shop. He smiled faintly, said congratulations, and kissed my forehead like he was signing off a letter. "You can hold him," I said, lifting the baby slightly. "I will," he said. "Just not yet." The words stung more than I wanted to admit. I told myself he was nervous, overwhelmed. Men always panic when they see how fragile babies are. Still, he stood there longer than he needed to, just watching. Then he took out his phone, pointed it toward me, and the camera light blinked once. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Just documenting," he said softly. "For what?" "For the record." He said it so calmly I almost didn't register the words until later. When the nurse came back, he stepped aside, polite as ever. I smiled for her, tried to sound cheerful, Told her my husband was just tired. She nodded, said new fathers get quiet sometimes. That night, when the baby slept in the small bassinet beside me, I opened my phone. Messages from family and friends filled the screen. Nina had already posted a photo captioned, "Welcome, baby Renn." So proud of my sister for doing it all with grace. The comments underneath were full of hearts, but I noticed a few that made me cold. Little inside jokes, laughing emojis, one that said, "Hope he looks like the right man." I deleted it before Evan could see. When he returned the next morning, he brought coffee and a plain envelope. He placed it on the tray beside my breakfast without comment. I glanced at it but didn't open it. "What's this?" I asked. "Something for later," he said. His tone was even, unreadable. I tried to change the subject, talking about the baby's name, about how he already had Evan's chin. Evan didn't respond. He just looked at the baby, then at me, like comparing us silently. "You're being strange," I said, forcing a laugh. "Say something. He's your son." He finally spoke. "Are you sure?" The words hit like a slap, even though his voice was gentle. "What kind of question is that?" I asked. "Of course I'm sure." He nodded slowly. "Good, then we'll have no surprises." When he left, the nurse asked if everything was okay. I said yes, just hormones, but something about his calm scared me more than anger ever could. After we got home, the house didn't feel like ours anymore. Evan had moved some of his things into the guest room permanently. He'd even labeled drawers, household, utilities, legal, archive. I told him he was nesting like a mother bird, tried to make it a joke. He didn't smile. Every night he came home at the same time, poured himself one glass of water, and sat at the table with his laptop. I'd try to start conversations, but he only gave brief answers. The baby would cry, and he'd help, but always, with that same polite distance, like he was volunteering for a task, not living a life. One evening, when I walked into the kitchen to heat a bottle, I noticed the faint hum of the shredder. He was feeding in sheets one by one. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Clearing space," he said. "For what?" "For what matters." I hated that he made everything sound like a code I couldn't crack. When my mother visited, she said he was just stressed, that men process things differently after a baby. "Give him time," she said. "Once he sees you're back to normal, he'll soften." Normal. As if that word still applied to me. A week later, Marion stopped by. She brought soup and stood in the doorway of the nursery, her eyes flicking from me to the baby. "He's beautiful," she said. "Looks familiar." "Of course he does," I said. "He looks like Evan." She smiled faintly. "Maybe. Evan looked different at that age." The air felt tight. I wanted to throw her out, but instead I asked if she wanted to hold him. "Not yet," she said, echoing Evan's words exactly. Then she added, "Some things need to be confirmed first." I didn't reply. That night, after she left, Evan stood by the crib, watching the baby sleep. I came up behind him and rested a hand on his shoulder. "He's perfect," I whispered. "Yes," Evan said. "He is." "So why do you look like you're waiting for something to go wrong?" He turned slowly. "Because I don't like guessing anymore." I stared at him. "You're making me sound like a liar." "I haven't said that," he said, "but truth always shows up eventually." He said it like a promise. I wanted to shout, to cry, to demand he stop talking in riddles. But the baby stirred, and the moment broke. The next morning, while he was at work, I checked his side of the desk. A new sticky note was there. "Bring forms." Underneath it, another one read, "Meeting, personal, Friday, 11 a.m. I took a photo of it on my phone, just in case. I didn't know why. That afternoon, Nina came over to help with laundry. She scrolled through her phone while folding the baby's clothes. "You know, people still talk about that photo," she said. "I told them it's old, but gossip sticks." "I don't care," I said too quickly. She smirked. "Maybe Evan does." I glared. "He's fine." "Sure," she said, then hesitated. "He texted me last week, you know. Asked when that rehearsal photo was taken. The exact date. My chest tightened. And you told him? Of course. Why wouldn't I? I didn't answer. When she left, I sat on the couch staring at the baby monitor. The soft static filled the room. I thought about the envelope he'd left in the hospital, still unopened on the kitchen counter. My hands itched to touch it, but I was scared of what I might find inside. That evening, as I rocked the baby to sleep, Evan came home early. He looked calmer than usual, peaceful even. Good day, I asked cautiously. Yes, he said, a productive one. He walked over to the crib, touched the baby's blanket, then turned to me. You should rest. Big day tomorrow. Tomorrow? He nodded. You'll see. I laughed uneasily. You're being cryptic again. He smiled faintly. No, I'm being careful. I watched him walk to the guest room and close the door. The lock clicked softly. The house smelled like cinnamon and tension. I'd spent all morning baking, cleaning, arranging flowers, trying to make everything look perfect for the baby welcome brunch. My idea, of course. I told myself if everyone saw how happy we looked, they'd stop whispering. Evan had agreed without argument, which should have comforted me. It didn't. He just said, if you want it public, let's make it public. Nina arrived first, carrying pastries and too much perfume. You look tired, she said as soon as she stepped in. I'm a new mother, I said. That's normal. She shrugged. Evan home? In the study. She glanced at the closed door and lowered her voice. You know he's been talking to someone, right? I rolled my eyes. He has a job, Nina. No, I mean like professionally. I saw him downtown last week near the law office by the post building. I laughed it off. Maybe he was paying a bill. Since when do accountants pay bills in law offices? Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Family started filing in. Marion with her soft, polite disapproval, my mother with her forced brightness, a few of Evan's coworkers with polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. I kept my voice cheerful, pouring coffee, showing off the baby. Look at this little angel, my mother said. Already looks like his father. Marion murmured, let's hope so, and took a cup without meeting my eyes. The words landed like stones. I wanted to scream, but instead I smiled wider, louder, as if volume could hide cracks. Evan joined us halfway through, dressed too formally for brunch, pressed shirt, dark tie. He kissed the baby's head, greeted everyone calmly, then sat at the far end of the table. He didn't touch the food. He just looked around, polite, detached, a guest at his own home. When I tried to draw him in, asking if he wanted to say something to our guests, he nodded once and stood. I just want to thank everyone for coming, he said. It's been a meaningful few months. Everyone clapped politely. Then he added, it's also been educational. Something in his tone made me stiffen. Evan, I started, but he raised a hand gently. Marriage teaches us truth, he continued, and truth, unlike gossip, doesn't hide forever. The room went quiet. Nina glanced at me, eyes wide. My mother gave a nervous laugh. Well, she said, that's deep for a brunch speech. Evan smiled faintly. Honesty usually is. Then he sat down, folded his napkin, and began cutting his food as if nothing had happened. I tried to keep things moving, forcing laughter, complimenting the pastries. Inside, my pulse was pounding. Every time his phone buzzed, I flinched. After dessert, the guests drifted into the living room. Marion stayed close to Evan, whispering quietly. My mother cornered me by the kitchen island, her voice sharp. What was that? She hissed. He sounded like he was making a statement. He's being dramatic, I said. He's mad about gossip. It'll pass. You'd better hope it does, she said. When she walked away, I turned toward the counter. Evan's briefcase sat open beside the coffee maker. Inside, neat stacks of paper peeked out, typed, stapled, deliberate. I could see the corner of one with my name on it. Before I could reach for it, he appeared behind me. Looking for something? I spun around, heart jumping. You left it open. I was just moving it. He smiled politely. That's thoughtful. He closed the case and clicked the latch. Evan, what are you doing? I asked. Why are you acting like a stranger? He met my eyes steadily. You've been saying that for weeks. Maybe ask why it keeps feeling true. I'm trying to fix things, I said. I planned this brunch. I'm showing everyone we're fine. He cut in softly. You care about how things look. I care about what they are. I wanted to slap the calm off his face. You think you're better than me because you're quiet, because you're collecting notes and pretending that's maturity. You're punishing me for something that doesn't even matter. He tilted his head. If it didn't matter, you wouldn't raise your voice. I took a step back. You're turning this into a game. He shook his head. No, games end with laughter. This will end properly. Properly? He set his coffee down. Yes, I'll handle it properly. There was something final in his tone, cold, clean, and terrifying. Before I could say more, Marion called from the living room, asking if we'd join for photos. Evan straightened his tie. Coming, he said, then turned to me. Smile. You're good at that. The flash from Nina's phone lit the room. She made us stand side by side, the baby between us. I smiled hard enough to make my jaw ache. Evan didn't. After everyone left, the silence in the house felt heavier than the noise had. The baby slept in his crib, peaceful. I sat on the couch, staring at the family photo Nina had already posted online. The caption read, "Perfect new parents, perfect day." I commented with a heart emoji, then noticed that Evan hadn't liked it. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. A message from Nina. What did he mean by handle it properly? Mum's worried. I didn't reply. I walked to the guest room door, knocked once. He answered after a pause, his tie gone, sleeves rolled. His briefcase was on the desk, locked again. What are you planning? I asked. He looked at me, unflinching. To restore balance. Stop talking like a lawyer, I snapped. He smiled faintly. That's interesting wording. Evan, please, I said, my voice breaking. We can fix this. I love you. He studied me quietly, then said, Love isn't a defense. I felt my throat tighten. So what? You're leaving? He shook his head. No, leaving would be too easy. I said I'd handle it properly. When he walked past me, his shoulder brushed mine. It felt like an exhale of the life we used to have. He stopped at the doorway, glanced back. Tomorrow morning, he said. Be ready. For what? You'll see. He left the room before I could ask anything else. That night, I sat awake with the baby in my arms, listening to the faint rustle of papers in the next room. Every sound felt deliberate. The clack of his keyboard, the soft beep of his phone alarm. Around midnight, I heard the drawer lock click. I told myself he was bluffing, that all his calmness was an act, that no one could stay that composed if they truly meant to leave. But when I checked his phone charging on the counter, a single notification blinked on the lock screen. Just that symbol. No name.